Hi, I'm Conway Daily Sun reporter Damon Steer, and I'm here with Conway Fire Chief Phil Remington and North Conway Fire Chief Chad McCarthy, and we're going to talk about ambulances today. And coming up this spring, voters have some decisions to make, and they're going to help explain what it's all about. Essentially, as I understand it, the town Conway has basically two ambulances systems working in town, one in the North Conway area that's provided by Action Ambulance, and then in the southern part of town we have the town of Conway ambulance, and in 2027 the contracts for these entities expire, and so we're developing a plan to move forward in the next 2 years, and here they are to tell us about it. Is that correct in a nutshell?
Yeah.
That's correct.
So currently the contract, Conway Village, when they dissolved, turned their ambulance service over to the town of Conway. And that was a previous contract that the town of Conway had with Conway Village. The contract basically ceased to exist when the town took it over, but still has a contract through 27 with Action Ambulance, which is a private for-profit ambulance, to cover the North Conway portion of town. So that contract will still exist and will expire, and the discussion is what to do when that contract expires.
And so we have some articles on the warrant, so why don't we talk about the town first, and then we'll talk about North Conway's question.
Okay, so the selectmen opted over this last year to put together a committee that consisted of the fire chiefs, some community members, and selectmen representatives to discuss different options between private EMS, municipal EMS, or a hybrid. Basically, we're working in a hybrid now. The committee looked at the different monetary values, the different levels, ALS being advanced life support, BLS being basic life support. The current contract requires basic life support townwide.
Townwide, okay.
Conway Village had been providing regular advanced EMT and paramedic level coverage at a minimum for decades.
Yeah.
On their choice, and the town supported that. Action does provide that when it's available, but their contract requires BLS. So
before we move on from that point, can you just explain what the basic difference between those two
Sure.
are?
So basic life support is things like bleeding control, CPR, different splinting options. They can give us a limited number of medications, such as like aspirin during a cardiac problem. Once you move to the advanced level, ALS consists of two different levels, advanced EMT and paramedic. So advanced EMTs gain the ability to start IVs and give different medications. IV or IM, which is a injection like you would get if you get a shot at the hospital. They also are allowed to do things, additional cardiac monitoring and different things like that. Once you move up to the paramedic, they have a much wider range of medications and procedures that they can do, up through intubation, surgical airways, things like that. So each service can provide up to the paramedic level, depending what they have available, with Conway maintaining the advanced EMT level. Action does have that depending on the day.
Yep.
Their contract requires them to be at minimum, though, of the basic, which requires 2 basic EMTs on the truck 24/7. So the discussion amongst the committee was that we really want it to be at a minimum of an advanced life support truck, and a minimum of having the advanced EMT on the ambulances. And when paramedics are available, that would be acceptable as well. Obviously, we want to bring the best care that we can to the entire valley. So that's where the committee landed, was wanting to provide that ALS care townwide, providing that same level of care townwide, with the option of having a paramedic when available, either on one truck or both trucks.
And so there's a article on the warrant. Do you recall which one it is?
I don't remember the exact number.
Okay. But and what is it asking?
So this is basically a non-binding warrant article to get the community's feeling on where they would stand with this. There are a number of other communities, including towns right in this county, that have had the same question asked of them as recent as in the last month, to see if their community would support their fire department or their municipality taking on ambulance service. So what it's asking is, what does the community want? Do they support basically a municipal service taking on the full coverage area of the town of Conway? So that would eliminate the private service and would be a municipal service townwide.
And Chief McCarthy, you have, or not you, but the North Conway precinct voters are going to have an article on their warrant. Can you talk about?
Yes, the article that we are going to have on our warrant that our commissioners support 100% is asking our taxpayers of the North Conway Water Precinct to purchase the equipment to start the ambulance service in conjunction with the town. And that article is asking our taxpayers to allow us to spend up to $950,000 to buy the equipment to get started. My feeling, and I hope the taxpayers feel the same way, that back when Conway Village dissolved, if you think about it, I mean, the Conway Village has been around forever, and they've been running the ambulance service down there forever. So the taxpayers down in that portion of town has purchased and invested all this money into the ambulance service. When they gave it over to the town, I feel that if our taxpayers want to show that we're 100% in with this, that we should do the same and support the service to supply the whole town with a quality service.
And so you're looking for 2 ambulances, as I understand it.
That's correct.
They're quite expensive.
Yeah, the 2 ambulances and equipment, I don't remember the exact prices, but the whole all-in price for all the equipment is like $950 grand.
Yeah. So these are not, these are pretty substantial trucks.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same
Yeah.
equipment and ambulances that Conway Ambulance runs.
So that's something that people should think about and look into. And so let's talk about how it would work. So all the ambulances, would they say the same thing on them, like Conway Municipal Ambulance, or do we?
I don't think so, because it'll be technically, correct me if I'm wrong, it'd be like a contract with the town, and it would be my plan would be it would look exactly like Conway's ambulances, be red and white.
Red and white.
Red and white, and I believe your ambulance is Conway Fire Ambulance.
Yep, it says Conway Fire Department ambulance on it.
Yes.
Yep.
So I envisioned ours would be the same color, same setup, same scheme, but it would say North Conway Fire Ambulance.
And so where would they be housed?
They'd be housed right at 70 Norcross Circle.
Okay, right.
The new
fire
firehouse.
station.
Yep.
And for Conway Village, they'd be where they always been.
Yep. So those trucks would stay where they are. We continue providing the same service that we're providing now. And I think the best way to look at this would be an intermunicipal agreement. We've seen those before in town where the town of Conway works with North Conway to provide an agreement between the two to work together cooperatively to cover the entire town. They would maintain their equipment, their trucks, their staff. We would do the same on our end, but work together to make sure calls are covered, even if it's outside of our typical district, to share that resource to make sure everybody's getting the coverage that they need.
And we should just touch on Center Conway because we have I call it a third fire department in town, and so they're in support of this, as I understand it.
As far as I know,
As far as I know, yes, that's
Chief
correct.
Merrill was involved in these discussions,
Yes.
as well as at least an additional member, Ray Levitt, sat on the committee, and we're involved in this overall discussion at the committee level.
I'm sure John Eastman is eager for me to bring this up. This setup that we're talking about, I believe, is the most cost efficient
Economical, cost efficient. Yep.
that you've come up with.
Yes.
So part of what the committee did is they asked Action Ambulance basically to put together what would, in 2025 money, what would it look like for them to provide the same level of service townwide? And the numbers we were seeing, and correct me if
Yep.
I'm wrong, we were up between 3 and 3.5 million to provide an all-in service. When we started doing the numbers for our 2025, we were in the 900,000s for this this year that we're operating in, and Chief McCarthy believed they would be
1.1.
within the same 1.1.
Ish.
So when we started looking at, we were talking around the $2 to $2.2 million municipal budget, which would be less than the 3.5 to contract it out. The benefit of the municipality doing is they now are able to collect the revenues to offset that budget. So the budget would be set by the town. North Conway would receive their portion. Conway would continue to receive their portion via budget. Those transports would be billed out, and then any money brought back would be used to offset that budget. Whereas right now, any money earned by a private service goes back to their corporate office to do what it is they do with it. That would also allow the local control of what are our billing rates? Can we choose to have the ability to waive a bill if somebody can't afford it? What do we want to charge? Because right now there's a big discrepancy in what is charged by the municipal service on an average, and this is all public information you can look up. On the average is just over $1,200 for an ALS call.
For Conway.
For Conway. And when you look at the private service, it's over $3,000 average. So you're talking about a big difference in the bill that goes to the patient. And while insurance does cover portions, if not all, depending on your insurance, there's still a portion that goes back to the user of the service, which they're responsible for. And having the town and the municipalities able to look at what they owe and be able to make an agreement with them so that they don't have to choose between paying their ambulance bill and putting food on their table and taking their medications is important.
And also, too, correct me if I'm wrong, they're out of network. The private ambulance
Correct.
company is out of network. They're out of the state. So depending on your insurance company is depending on what they will pay for,
Yep.
for within the bill.
Yes.
I mean, to me, that seems very wild that, you could have a heart attack in one end of the town and have a sort of a mild bill and have a heart attack on the other end of town, even closer to the hospital, and have a higher bill.
Yep.
And you can't just say, hey, if a paramedic comes riding in, you probably can't say, can I just wait for the next ambulance? Give me the EMT.
No, you can't do. I wouldn't do that.
No.
Just to save a few bucks. But let's see, what else can I ask you? I have a list of questions. I just got my phone. And when are these votes?
So the town vote will be in April. It'll be on the ballot, and it's a non-binding, basically referendum question, just to get a feeling of the town, so that can give some direction on where to go with this at the town level.
And this is on April 8th?
April 8th, yep.
And this is at the polls?
Correct.
Yeah, and the North Conway Water Precinct, their annual meeting is Wednesday the 26th at the North Conway Community Center. Opens at 4. The annual meeting actually starts at 7.
And so it opens for voting?
Yeah, at 4.
Like for ballot voting?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
And so this has been talked about for a few months, and what kind of feedback are you getting?
I've been getting a lot of good feedback on it. I mean, we did have a call up in Birch Hill a couple weeks ago. We picked up a patient, well, not me, North Conway Rescue went and Action Ambulance went. And the patient that they picked up talked very highly of the idea that the town and North Conway Water Precinct are trying to work together on creating an ambulance service, a municipal service throughout the town.
We've always had great support from our community portion, from going up from the village into the town, and we've had a lot of support to continue providing the service that we have. And the goal is to be able to, for both entities, to be able to provide the same level of service to everybody in town and be able to work together in a good cooperative situation that brings the same level of care.
It is quite a discrepancy between BLS in one area and ALS or paramedic in another, and just the cost is kind of mind-blowing that there's such a difference.
And a big point is this is not just a conversation that's happening here in Conway.
No.
We're seeing this all across the state and across the country. There are many other municipalities right here, and one is right here in this county, and there's a couple others in the state of New Hampshire that are actively going through the same thing right now, where they have a private service covering them, and they are building, if not implementing already, a municipal ambulance service. purely because the cost of contracting it out outweighed doing it in-house with the staff that they have.
Is there, beyond, the revenue that comes in from billing, is there a reason that the town can do it, or the town and the precinct can do it for less than a private contractor?
I think it comes down, a big portion of it is the overhead, right? We just need to cover our costs. We don't need to put money away. Anything that we're billing out is really the cost of the supplies and the staff to do the call. We don't need to earn money to put away. We do have capital reserve funds, no different than we do with the fire department, for the purchase of new equipment and things like that. But the goal isn't necessarily to make money. It's to just cover the cost to keep the service there and ready to go.
Yes.
And the other portion to look at is we all have different contracts. So for example, Conway Village has historically had a contract with the town of Albany. And a portion of what Albany pays is fire, but the other portion is ambulance. And so as we look at that, there are other contracts in this area, such as Hale's location that Conway Village currently has the contract and goes with North Conway Rescue, that also provide money in to help offset those
Costs.
the tax costs, basically.
And another question I had was, boy, I lose my train of thought. In terms of staffing, are you going to need more people?
Yes, when this does go through, North Conway Water Precinct will be hiring 9 or 10 more employees for the ambulance service, which is all figured into that ambulance budget that I created to present to the town so we could come up with this idea.
And how does, and who's in charge of this municipal? Where does the buck stop? If it,
The way it's been talked about between North Conway Water Precinct and the town and Conway Fire Department, or Conway Ambulance, sorry, is that there'll be like a chain of command type deal. There'll be the town and then Conway, North Conway, and we run our ship like we run it. They run their ship like we run it, and there'll be meetings every quarter, with the town, and see how things are going.
One thing that I was kind of curious about is why wouldn't the ambulances be purchased by the town and then just lease the space from North Conway?
That option was talked about.
Discussed,
That's been talked about. And again, if you talk about monies and trying to keep the budget palatable for all the taxpayers, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't do this research, but if you take that municipality having to rent a space or lease a space every year, that's just drives the budget up more.
So basically how our budget works this year is we have an ambulance budget and a fire budget. The portions of equipment, electricity, telephone, some things are split equally between our fire budget and our ambulance budget. Other things are split based on usage. So staff, their hourly rate of staff being there is split between the two budgets because both departments are really using the staff. But things such as retirement, which has a higher cost for firefighters than it does for EMS providers, are shared basically on a 2/3, 1/3. So we really worked our budget so that the ambulance portion is paying the ambulance, the fire is paying the fire. The revenues from the ambulance offset that cost of the ambulance. Whereas the revenues such as contracts from Albany offset fire. So if you actually look, that contract from Albany gets divided across both portions of the department, but they're sharing the same staff to provide the coverage. So one minute I might be a firefighter, the next minute I might be a paramedic. That doesn't mean that the calls are going to be handled by different people, but basically utilizing the resource to keep it in-house for both. And by joining together and doing this, that now brings in the ability for us to work on, if we have different types of calls, can North Conway send this piece of equipment? Can they send their ambulance down if we need a second ambulance so our staff can also do the rescue portion of a motor vehicle crash, things like that. Yeah. So if our ambulance and engine go to a motor vehicle crash and we need 2 ambulances, rather than trying to send somebody back to get the other ambulance or have somebody come from home,
they just call us.
We have their truck come down. And no different than if they have something going on up north, we're going to go to them. The money's going the same place. It's no longer a monetary issue. It's how can we work together to provide what we need to get get the best service for the people.
One thing Chief Remington talked about with the dissolving of the Conway Village precinct was the equalization of the tax rates across the non-precinct and the precinct. It's probably early to talk about that, but I guess the idea is people in different parts of town were paying different rates for stuff.
Yep.
Will this municipal agreement kind of also help with that issue?
So ambulance historically has been paid for across the entire town. So that rate was the same whether you lived in North Conway, Center Conway, Conway Village, East Conway in the past. And that would still continue. So basically the town of Conway has an ambulance service. There's a contract line for Action Ambulance. They get paid out of that budget. So that's a spread across the board, and it would still continue to do that. North Conway would just take on that line. They would submit their budget. We would work on the budget together. We'd have our separate budgets that would be pooled into that one budget line, and that's the revenue would offset that. So the cost would be equalized across everybody in town, but they'd also be receiving the same level of service for that same cost and receiving the benefit of the revenue offsetting that.
So is this almost like kind of like a return to what it was before Action came along in a way? Because I mean, it's more similar because didn't North Conway do this?
No, you had North Conway Ambulance back in the day, which
Right.
was a for-profit
That was
ambulance
also
service.
for
Yep.
profit. Okay.
Yep.
So North Conway hasn't had a municipal or a government-run ambulance in a while.
We did back in the day, yes.
Back in the day, but
Yes.
it's been a while.
It's been a while, yep.
Boy, is there anything that I'm missing or we haven't talked about and what voters need to know?
No, I was going to talk about, but I think Phil touched on it, the budget process or how that was going to work between the two, and I think he hit right on it that North Conway would create an ambulance budget. I would bring it down to the town, sit down with Phil, Chief Remington, Johnny Eastman, and whoever else was going to be involved, and meld those two budgets, make those two budgets work the way that everybody was happy with it, and then it would just go through the regular budget process the town takes.
And so would there be, on the precinct side, an ambulance budget for the precinct, so it would be on both warrants, or it would just go on the town warrant?
It would just be on the town.
And would it be multi-year contract or just every
I'm guessing it
year?
would probably end up being a multi-year contract, yep.
Okay.
Or a municipal agreement.
Intermunicipal agreement.
Intermunicipal agreement.
So it wouldn't be something that the voters would have to sort of mull over every year. It'd be, 3 years or whatever.
No, I'm a fan of long agreements. Yep.
Yeah, I think we'd probably see something similar to our mutual aid or other intermunicipal agreements in which if there's nothing to bring up, it's going to automatically
They renew.
And I think the biggest thing for the voters to take home is this is your ability to have the input in how your services are provided. Right now, we contract a service for a level, that's what it is. Whereas we can have the ability to change and bring a higher level, adjust the level, and move equipment around and move personnel around to provide the best service without having to deal with contracts and agreements. We would have the ability to adjust that and make sure that we're providing the best service that we can for everybody.
One thing that concerns me is the question, I don't have it in front of me, but it's something along the lines of, would you favor a municipal ambulance service? And everybody wants an ambulance service, presumably, or most people would. But if they say no, I guess that would be indicating that they would want to go with a private company. And that's kind of the other, you can't phrase it like, would you like, it has to be a yes or no question, but the question, if you could word it anyway, if you could word it in a sort of more clear way, and it's not your fault, it's just the way the law works, it'd probably be, would you prefer a municipal or a private service, is really what the heart of the question is, as I understand it.
Yeah, I think the way that, I don't know exactly how the article reads, but it's pretty much asking the opinion of the taxpayers if they would support a municipal ambulance service. And if people vote it down, I would take that as no, they want a private.
Okay.
That's if I understand the article that way. Yep.
And I'd say if people have questions, this is your opportunity. Reach out to us at our respective stations and ask the questions, because we can answer those questions and help
understand.
help understand what the different lingo or the different what does a yes vote mean, what does a no vote mean. So I'd encourage people as they see us in town to ask those questions, and we'll help provide the information that we can.
And what's the best way to learn more about this, and what's the best way to reach you?
Call the fire stations, 603-447-2681. Ask for myself and the
Phil
assistant chief.
Remington?
Yep,
Yep.
Phil Remington, and we can talk to you about it. Stop in, say hi. We can more than happy to give a tour of equipment, show people what we have for equipment on the trucks. There's hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment sitting there that the taxpayers over the years have invested in.
Yep.
And a lot of people aren't aware of what actually goes into an ambulance and the care that's provided. And I'd welcome, even because I know North Conway, they're going to be asking to purchase this equipment. We're more than happy to share the experience of what is it, what is the cardiac monitor, what is the stretcher, what are these items that they're talking about. So learning about the different levels in the equipment.
We do have a few minutes left, and Chief, do you want to give your contact information?
Yep, you can give the fire station a call. It's 603-356-5327. And also, too, you can ask for myself, Chief Chad McCarthy, or you can ask for Assistant Chief Josh McMillan. He's well-versed in what's going on. He was in all the planning process of this, too. And also, too, just like Chief Remington said, don't hesitate if you want to stop down to the fire station. There's usually somebody there that can give a tour and ask questions, and yeah, get any information. We'll give out any information we can possibly give you.
And I don't know if you've gone out to bid or have a particular kind of ambulance in mind, but with the last couple minutes, do you have an idea of like what kind of ambulance? Would it be like a Ford or a Dodge or a I don't know.
We don't know yet. We've gotten prices, and I believe the company that we got prices from, they have 2 or 3 different chassis. I believe Dodge, Ford, or Chevy, but we haven't particularly picked a brand yet, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, and they all roughly about the same money, so it doesn't really matter which brand we pick.
And again, when do your respective voters vote?
April 8th for the town of Conway.
Wednesday the 26th for the North Conway Water Precinct.
All right, well, thank you, everybody, for watching.